Okay, hey everybody. So this is video 17. Just want to go over a couple extra like book ideas for layouts and some app ideas. It could be either or, and just so that they can be made by somebody who can make this stuff, right? If you could make an app, upload pictures, and kind of like make a book online, and then have somebody print it out for you after you're done, that would be pretty cool. If you and also if you could do like kind of sharing, for your photos and your ideas and stuff, if we're all like kind of doing the same, um, have the same interests, and finding, making, symbols to represent personal development concepts or psychology concepts or health concepts or business concepts or whatever, then we could kind of, all progress faster, right? With, exchange of information like that. So, um, anyways, I'm just going to start off by saying, for information right now is you're reading through a book, you have the title of the book, and then you have all the informations and the chapters and stuff, but it's all, how the layout of it is such that you have to kind of flip through the pages and read it and hold the information in your mind as you read it and learn it as you go like that. So the layout is such that you can't just kind of see everything at once. Now, if you can just remember the title of the book, what the objective is, and tie everything you're reading into how it relates to the title or the objective, then you just, need to remember the title, like just, what the book is about. Like even if you just carry the book around with you all the time and you're memorable of the book, that helps remember everything in the book that is, geared towards the fulfillment of whatever the title is, right? So, in that note, everything's contextual, for placement and memory and stuff with information. And instead of kind of like, having a book that you flip through, if you just had like a map, like a city, like a one-page map where the book was laid out, spread out on a map, then let's say this this whole map represented all the information that would go into a book for health, let's say, right? So this whole page is just health. Now the idea here is that, if you lay out all the information onto one page, then it's like you can see the whole book all at once from beginning to end simultaneously, right? You're not flipping through pages. You can just see the whole book laid out, and you can see the categories, the chapters, the content, and it's not like I'm putting really small fine print like microfiche or something like that writing in here, and you're supposed to be able to read that kind of thing. It's just more like in your mind. If you practice with cards that will break up this information, you start to learn that the whole thing that you're learning is health, and then you start to tie in the how it breaks down, and then learn the information that is part of the smaller portions. And then when you think of a chapter, because you continuously keep putting the sentences that make up that chap, or sorry, if you think of a paragraph and you keep putting the sentences that make up that paragraph into the paragraph spot, then when you just see that paragraph, all the information that makes up that paragraph, because you're used to keep putting that information in there, you're aware of it, and it becomes simultaneously you remember everything that makes it up, right? So, and then if you take the paragraphs and put them together in a chapter, that chapter, your knowledge of what that chapter is, everything that made it up, and everything that made up the things that made it up. So you begin to just think of the book health, and in your mind this starts to represent more and more detail that you attach to the one concept of health as you start putting everything, building it, from the smallest up to the largest, or from the largest down to the smallest, right? You start to just what this means starts to become more and more detailed for you, and just have to remember the one thing in order to remember everything that becomes a part of it. So anyways, let's say health, you split it up into sections, um, like let's say let's say in health there was you're going to do nutrition. You're going to have a chapter on nutrition. I can't even spell nutrition. So you have a chapter on nutrition. Let's say you have a chapter on, let's say, exercise. So you got food, you got exercise. Let's say you have a chapter on sleep. Let's say you have it on, socialization, socialization, and then let's say you had a chapter on, mental relaxation or mental health, mental peace, mind, mental relaxation, and then let's say you had a chapter on fun, whatever. So you had different chapters that make up what you want to consist of health, and then within here, nutrition, you start to break that up into, different, paragraphs that make up this chapter. So in nutrition, you might say, you might have a whole thing on how to eat fresh, fruits and vegetables versus processed foods or your junk food, right? I'm not sure off the top of my head what I put in that, but you start to get ideas of how to implement that, right? You think exercise is important to me because health is important to me. And during the day, you start to think of what do I need to remember and what's important for me to remember to implement that exercise, right? What's important for me to remember why to exercise? What's important for me to remember, like when to exercise or what I'm doing for exercise? What are all the points that I need to remember in order to get me up and to get exercising, right? What do I want to remember for sleep? Why is it important for sleep? What information do I know about sleep? How can I put that into practice? Socialization, how much do I want that as a part of my life? What kind of friends do I want? So all of them, see how it starts to, you start to have a context, a goal, and then you start to fill it in with information that's going to help you achieve that and that's important for you that you want to remember. And then say if you broke this down like a puzzle, then you could start off with health, and then you have a card for exercise, a card for nutrition, a card for sleep, and so forth. And then you start to, this would be one side of the card, and then you just highlight the one, like you'd have all the answers blacked out, but you ask yourself what goes there, right? And then you try to remember it's exercise. Now this becomes easy after, you say, you flip it over and you have the word exercise, and you have the other cards that have the other words, and you start to put them where they would go in this map, right? You're going to start learning that, and then in the process of doing that, you're going to learn like that exercise is there because you keep putting the card exercise of where it goes, and you're going to do the reverse, right? The one will have the answer, the other one will have the location of where the answer goes, and you just keep practicing, right? And then once you learn the categories in your mind, when you think of health, this will start to come more solid, more visual in your mind, and then each one will start to, it's the content that fills it up. You start to put the content that fills it up. So when you think of nutrition, nutrition just isn't a blank word that doesn't mean anything. It starts to mean all the stuff that you add in that you want it to mean, right? So this begins to mean just all of this that makes it up. When you think nutrition, you think of all this stuff simultaneously because you're so used to putting the cards there that make up what this means to you, right? When you think of exercise, you start to think of exercise as all the content that you keep memorizing that makes up this, right? And that, blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon, this becomes this, and you just have to think of this to remember all this, and so forth. And then when you're putting these larger categories, larger contexts into, the title of the whole book, then this starts to just mean automatically all this, because you're so used to just, start off with a large, context that you put smaller ones in, which define it, and the smaller ones that define that. And it all just begins to, every time you review health, this becomes more and more defined of what health means to you, and it's defined by all these subcategories, which are defined by subcategories, if that's a thing. So this just becomes, it's kind of like you review, every time we review this, we're always reviewing the title every time, and then we're reviewing this it's downline, second as much, and then the things, we're always starting from the top and kind of going down. So we're always re-emphasizing the main objective that we're trying to go for and try to remember and try to build, right? And it starts to mean more and more all the time, defined by this. And then what I'm saying is pretty soon you just have to remember the one thing, health. And because you made up all the content for it and put it together, this health, this one thing will start to mean all of this. And it's like you can just visualize all the information at once, right? You're aware of all of it. Just like, I'm not saying you can see all of it in detail all at once, but if you think of your city, right? And you kind of, if you say bring to mind what the general visualization of what it all is, you have in your mind that, and you could go anywhere in your mind, to the northeast or to the south or east or west or northwest or whatever, in your mind's eye, and you kind of have an idea of what's there. And you can go anywhere in your mind's eye because you kind of made it permanent if you're used to, looking at maps and have an idea of what the city is. So that's kind of one thing, right? To have an app to try to create that. You can create it on paper and stuff too, but it's just, everything's just easier if you could just make an app for it or something, right? So that's one thing. I think I took too long in this video to share my next thing, so I'll just make another video for my next one. Thanks.